Ethan Price had learned to live with silence. The kind of silence that lingered after his wife's passing, when the only voices in the house were his own and his 7-year-old daughter's. He often took her to the woods on weekends, teaching her to track animal prints and notice the difference between bird calls. The forest had become their shared refuge. That afternoon, however, the quiet was broken. Ethan was cutting across a narrow deer path when a sound stopped him cold. At first, he thought it was just the wind shifting dry leaves. Then it came again. Low, muffled, like a sob smothered beneath the earth. His pulse quickened. He knew these woods well, knew that coyotes, raccoons, and even wild dogs sometimes made strange noises, but this was human. Dropping his pack, he pressed his ear to the ground. The sound was clearer now, short, desperate gasps. Someone was under there. He tore at the earth with his bare hands. Damp soil packed beneath his fingernails, roots cutting his palms, but he didn't stop. Every second carried weight. Whoever was beneath him was fighting for breath, and their time was running out. He clawed, dug, then finally struck fabric, cloth torn and filthy, pressed flat by layers of dirt. "Hold on," he rasped. "I've got you." His muscles screamed as he pulled away soil, revealing a pale hand, trembling weakly against the air. With a final heave, he cleared enough space to uncover a face, delicate, streaked with dirt, lips cracked and blue. A woman. Her chest rose in shallow, jagged gasps. Ethan ripped off his jacket and covered her, shielding her from the bite of autumn air. "Don't move too much. You're safe now." His voice was steady, though his heart pounded like a drum. Her eyes fluttered open, pupils wide with terror, but then locked on his. For a moment, Ethan saw more than fear there. He saw recognition. Like she'd been waiting for him, specifically him. "Who did this to you?" he asked, brushing soil from her tangled hair. She didn't answer at first, only clutched at his arm, her nails digging into his sleeve. Then, with a trembling breath, she leaned closer, lips brushing against his ear. Her voice was faint, raw from lack of air. "They'll come back, for me. And now, for you." The words sent a chill through him deeper than the autumn wind ever could. This wasn't some random tragedy. This was deliberate. Someone had buried her alive. "Who?" he pressed. "Who's after you?" But she closed her eyes, as though speaking had drained the last of her strength. He felt her weight sag into his arms, unconscious. Ethan's mind raced. He needed to get her out of the woods, but every instinct screamed that eyes could already be watching them. Whoever had buried her wouldn't want her alive, and they sure wouldn't want a witness. He scooped her up, the weight awkward but manageable, and glanced back toward the trail where his daughter waited by their makeshift campsite. His chest tightened. If danger was coming, his little girl was at risk too. The forest around him, once familiar and safe, now felt like a labyrinth of shadows. Every snapping twig echoed like a threat. The woman's whisper replayed in his head, each syllable heavier than the last. "They'll come back for me. And now, for you." As he carried her through the trees, Ethan realized this rescue wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something dark, dangerous, and far larger than he could yet imagine. And in saving her, he might have just entangled both himself and his daughter in a deadly game meant for millionaires and killers, not single fathers trying to protect what little they had left. Dash dash dash. Ethan's boots crunched against the forest floor as he adjusted the woman's limp weight in his arms. His daughter, Lily, was still sitting where he had left her, cross-legged by the small fire they'd built earlier. She looked up when she saw him, eyes widening at the sight of the dirt-caked stranger hanging in his arms. "Daddy, who's that?" she whispered. "Someone who needs our help," Ethan answered quickly, trying to keep his tone calm. "Pack up your things. We have to move, now." Lily's small fingers fumbled with the straps of her backpack, sensing the urgency in his voice. She didn't ask more questions, though her worried gaze lingered on the stranger. Ethan laid the woman gently against a fallen log. Her breathing was shallow but steady. He brushed hair away from her face and caught, in the flicker of firelight, features that seemed familiar, someone he'd glimpsed on TV or the cover of a magazine. Then it struck him. Clarissa Hale. Heiress to the Hale fortune, a tech empire that dominated headlines. What in God's name was she doing here, half buried in the soil of his quiet woods? "Daddy," Lily murmured, tugging at his sleeve. Someone's out there. The words chilled him more than the evening wind. Ethan turned sharply, scanning the tree line. At first, he saw nothing, just black silhouettes of pines against a fading sky. But then a faint glint, like light bouncing off glass, caught his eye. Binoculars. He cursed under his breath. They weren't alone. Lily, stay close. He pulled her behind him and doused the fire with his boot, plunging their campsite into near darkness. Whoever was out there had the advantage of numbers and intent. Ethan only had instincts, and a little girl to protect. A rustle of leaves snapped from the left, then another from behind. He tightened his grip on the pocketknife he always carried, though he knew it wouldn't be much against armed men. He bent low to Clarissa, shaking her shoulder. Wake up. You need to wake up. Her eyes flickered open, confusion giving way to alarm. She coughed, trying to push herself up. They found us already. Her voice was ragged, laced with panic. Who are they? Ethan demanded. Why are they after you? She swallowed hard, as though weighing how much to tell him. People who don't want me alive. My family's company. There are secrets. Billions at stake. I uncovered something I shouldn't have. Before Ethan could reply, a voice rang out from the shadows. Low, cold, controlled. Step away from her, and maybe you and the kid walk out of here alive. Ethan froze. He couldn't see the speaker, only the vague outline of a man blending into the trees. Another figure shifted on the opposite side, flanking them. Clarissa clutched his arm. Don't let them take me. If they do, I won't live through the night. Lily whimpered softly, pressing her face into Ethan's side. His chest ached. He'd promised her, after her mother's death, that he'd always keep her safe. But standing here, surrounded by faceless men in the woods, he realized that promise was about to be tested in ways he never imagined. Ethan straightened slowly, placing himself between Lily and the direction of the voices. His mind raced, every nerve alight. He couldn't fight them head-on. The forest, though, that was his ground. He knew every ridge, every creek, every deer trail. You're going to have to kill me first, he said, voice low but steady. A chuckle drifted back through the trees. That was the plan. The tension broke like a snapped branch. Ethan scooped Lily against his hip, grabbed Clarissa's arm, and darted into the underbrush. Shouts erupted behind them, heavy boots crashing after. Bullets cracked against tree trunks, splinters flying. The forest that had once been a sanctuary was now a hunting ground, and they were the prey. Dash dash dash. Branches whipped at Ethan's arms as he tore through the forest, every breath burning in his chest. Lily clung to him, her face buried against his neck, while his free hand pulled Clarissa along. She stumbled, barefoot and weak from her ordeal, but somehow she managed to keep pace. Behind them, the woods erupted with sound, men shouting, dogs barking in the distance, the unmistakable crack of gunfire echoing like thunder. Whoever these men were, they weren't concerned about subtlety. They were here to finish the job. Faster, Ethan urged, his voice rough. We have to reach the ridge. He knew the terrain like the back of his hand. Beyond the ridge lay an old ranger's station, abandoned years ago but still standing. It wasn't much, but it offered 4 walls and maybe, just maybe, a chance to regroup. Clarissa stumbled again, nearly collapsing. Ethan caught her by the elbow, steadying her. I can't. She gasped. I can't keep running like this. You'll have to, Ethan said, harsher than he meant. Then he softened. Just a little farther. Trust me. Her eyes locked on his, wide with fear but also something else, something like reluctant faith. She nodded and pushed forward, her steps clumsy but determined. The forest thinned as they climbed, moonlight spilling through the branches. Ethan could hear the pursuers gaining, their boots crunching closer, the growl of dogs more distinct. Lily whimpered softly, and Ethan pressed a kiss against her hair, whispering, "It's okay, baby. Daddy's got you." When they reached the crest of the ridge, Ethan paused, chest heaving. He crouched low, listening. The men were below, spreading out, sweeping flashlights across the undergrowth. One beam swept dangerously close, grazing the tree where Clarissa hid. Ethan motioned sharply. Down. Stay quiet. They pressed themselves flat against the earth, the smell of pine and damp moss filling their lungs. Lily's small fingers dug into his shirt, trembling. Clarissa lay beside them, her breath ragged, her lips forming silent words. Please, Please, please. Two figures passed just below, flashlights slicing through the darkness. One carried a rifle slung casually over his shoulder, the other a leash. The dogs snarled, pulling against their restraints, noses to the ground. Ethan's stomach knotted. They didn't have much time. As the men moved on, Ethan leaned close to Clarissa, whispering, "Why are they so desperate to kill you?" Her eyes glistened with tears in the moonlight. "Because I know what they did. And if the truth gets out, it will destroy them." "Who?" "My own board of directors," she breathed. "They're laundering billions through shell companies, covering up deals that fund things worse than you can imagine. I confronted them. Hours later, I woke up in a box of dirt." Ethan's jaw tightened. She wasn't just some spoiled heiress caught in the wrong place. She was a target because she had dared to stand against men with power and no conscience. And now her fight had become his. The sound of snapping branches yanked him back to the moment. The dogs were circling, catching their scent. "Move," he hissed. They scrambled down the far side of the ridge, Ethan half carrying Clarissa now, adrenaline the only thing keeping him moving. The ranger's station wasn't far. He prayed it was still standing. Gunfire cracked again, a bullet slamming into the tree just feet from them. Bark exploded, showering Ethan's face with splinters. Lily screamed, muffled quickly as he pressed her against his chest. "Keep going," he urged, pulling Clarissa through the darkness. At last, through the trees, the outline of the old cabin emerged, leaning, weather-worn, but real. Hope surged in his chest. They burst through the door, slamming it shut just as another gunshot rang out. Ethan dropped the wooden bar across the frame, heart pounding. For the first time since finding Clarissa buried in the earth, he allowed himself a breath. But it was short-lived. Outside, dogs snarled, and shadows moved closer. They weren't safe. Not yet. And Ethan knew, as he tightened his grip on the knife, that the night was far from over. Dash dash dash. The ranger's station smelled of mildew and dust, the air thick with years of abandonment. Moonlight slipped through broken slats in the shutters, painting silver bars across the wooden floor. Ethan lowered Lily gently onto an old cot, brushing dirt from her hair with trembling fingers. She clung to his arm, eyes wide and glassy. "Daddy, are they going to hurt us?" she whispered. "Not if I can help it," Ethan said firmly, though his own heart was hammering like a drum. He forced himself to smile for her sake. "You stay right here. Don't move until I say so." She nodded, small hands clutching the edge of the blanket. Clarissa staggered to the wall, sliding down until she sat on the floor, arms wrapped around her knees. In the pale light, her face looked ghost-like, smeared with dirt and streaked with dried tears. "They won't stop," she said hollowly. "Not until I'm dead. And now you and your daughter too." Ethan knelt in front of her, voice low but sharp. "Then you'd better start talking. I need to know what we're up against." Clarissa's gaze locked onto his, searching, weighing him. Finally, her lips parted. "My father built Hale Technologies from nothing. But the board, his old partners, they twisted it into something else. Offshore accounts, dirty money, weapons deals disguised as humanitarian projects." Her voice shook. "I found documents, proof. I confronted them. That night, I was drugged. When I woke up, I was buried alive." Ethan's stomach turned. This wasn't just corporate greed, it was murder, sanctioned by the wealthy. "And now," Clarissa continued, "they'll paint me as missing, maybe suicidal. No one will question it. No one, except," she trailed off, her eyes fixed on him. Ethan understood. By pulling her out of the ground, he'd become the variable they hadn't planned for. A witness. A sharp thud rattled the door. Then another. The dogs barked outside, claws scratching at the wood. "They found us," Ethan muttered, rising to his feet. He scanned the room quickly. Rusted tools, a broken lantern, a fire axe mounted crookedly on the wall. He grabbed the axe, feeling its heavy weight in his hands. "Stay back," he warned Clarissa and Lily, planting himself between them and the door. The men outside weren't rushing in. They were testing, circling, waiting. Ethan's skin prickled with dread. They wanted him to panic, to make a mistake. Then a voice slithered through the cracks in the wood. Smooth, mocking. "Ethan Price. Single father. Hard worker. A man who minds his own business, until tonight." Ethan's blood ran cold. They knew his name. "You've stepped into something far above your pay grade," the voice continued. "Hand over the woman, and we let you and your girl live." Clarissa's hand clamped onto his sleeve, trembling. "Don't listen. They'll kill you anyway." Ethan's grip tightened on the axe. He could almost see Lily's face in his mind, her sleeping peacefully at home, safe in her own bed. That promise he'd made after his wife's funeral echoed in his ears. "I'll protect you, no matter what." "Not a chance," he growled back. Silence followed, heavy and suffocating. Then, laughter. "So be it." Glass shattered as a rock crashed through the window. A flashlight beam sliced the darkness inside. Ethan swung the axe, smashing the light, plunging the room back into shadow. Gunfire erupted, bullets punching through the walls, splinters raining down. Lily screamed, and Clarissa pulled her to the ground, shielding her with her body. Ethan crouched low, heart racing. He wasn't going to survive a firefight, not with a child and an unarmed woman to protect. He needed a plan, and fast. His eyes darted to the floorboards. In the corner, half hidden under dust and debris, was a square hatch, the trapdoor to the old cellar. His pulse spiked with a surge of hope. "Down there," he hissed to Clarissa. "Take Lily. Go." Clarissa shook her head, panic in her eyes. "What about you?" "I'll hold them off." Another round of bullets splintered the walls. Ethan shoved the cot aside, ripping open the hatch. A ladder descended into blackness. Clarissa lifted Lily down carefully, then turned back to him. For the briefest moment, their eyes met, fear, gratitude, and something unspoken sparking between them. "Don't you dare die up here," she whispered. Then she disappeared into the darkness below. Ethan tightened his grip on the axe, straightened his shoulders, and turned toward the door as it began to splinter inward. He wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. He was fighting for his daughter's future, and for the woman who had whispered death into his ear the night he found her buried alive. And he knew, when that door came crashing down, the real war would begin.